Florida has one of the most reliable voting systems in the whole country, and Ron DeSantis is trying to export that to other states. I think it's before his 2024 presidential run. But I still want to go. Oh, yes, I already know what some of you are thinking, and I'm here to tell you you're wrong. You're thinking, oh, Ron DeSantis, I don't want him to be president. I want Trump to be president. It doesn't matter because everyone runs for president. And then out of that list, the number one guy becomes the Republican nominee who will be Trump if he chooses to run. And then the next guy down, or remember how Pence was picked, this is how Ron DeSantis will become a vice president pick. He has to run for president. Nikki Haley will probably run. It could be Mike Pompeo. All these, there's a really deep bench on the Republican side. There will also be the swampers, and the swampers are going to get a certain amount of votes also. But this is where both president and vice president will be picked. And if Trump chooses not to run for president, then his media company will help push his preferred candidate into both the top position and the vice president position. That's how this works, and that's how it's going to work in both 2022 and 2024. So don't freak out that Ron DeSantis may be a big player in this game.
We're here today to speak about integrity of our elections and making sure we continue to do a great job here in the state of Florida. I do think it's worth saying that the 2020 election was something that we at the state level took very seriously. If you recall, one of the first things I did when I became governor back in 2019 was accept the resignation of Brenda Snipes as supervisor in Broward County. And we replaced the supervisor here in Palm Beach County, which obviously has had a lot of problems. So we had new leadership in those positions. We also invested millions of dollars in integrity measures, including against any type of cyber manipulation or cyber attacks. And when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, a lot of states used that as a pretext to be able to do hastily new forms of voting. We didn't do that in Florida. We had a system. We had confidence in the system. We knew it was safe, and we did it. We were not going to be sending out unsolicited mass mail ballots because, as we've seen, there's problems with that. So the result, and when people tried to sue us, we told them, pound sand. We're not going to change what we're doing. So the result of 2020, from an administrative perspective, was that Florida had the most transparent and efficient election anywhere in the country. Other states took days, weeks, and even months to count their votes. And yet Florida, by midnight on election night, we had 99% reporting and 11 million votes counted, tabulated, and put out to the public. It can be done, and don't let anyone tell you it can't be done. So I think it's important to point that out, and I think Floridians of all stripes can rest assured that in this state, your vote counts. Your vote matters. Your vote will be counted. It's going to be transparent. It's going to be above board. It's going to be a confidence-inspiring process.
Here's Ron DeSantis enters the vote reform fight. The epilogue to the 2020 election granted that there will be a lot of political energy in 2021 devoted to reforms to how Americans vote and how those votes are counted. Unsurprisingly, Republicans and Democrats have dramatically different visions of what needs reforming. Now, that is true. So you'll see all down this list. Democrats want to open up mail-in ballots. They want to open up drop-offs. And the GOP is making an effort, Republicans are making an effort to get more people involved at the local level. We all have to get involved in smaller local politics. That's going to be how this thing is won, not by just pointing to one guy on the national platform and say, hey, you do all the work, we're done over here. Americans need to understand that the vote needs to be ushered through from the intent of the will of the governed all the way through to the ballot counting. And if you're not willing to do the work, then just quit. It's all done. And I'm not willing to quit. I think America's worth fighting for. Democracy is worth fighting for. There is a lot of space on the ground to still fight, and it's going to work, but you have to get involved, and you're going to have to get involved locally. You're going to need to volunteer at local polling stations. And no states are safe because we know what can happen now. This time it is going to work. And that includes people on local election boards who can decide even what machines will be used in your county or in your state. So again, it's all good news. It's all great opportunities going forward. But let's look at here's the checklist. I'm going to bring this up here. This is the checklist on that DeSantis is proposing. It's already these are already huge in Florida, which is why Florida has one of the most respected ground games in the United States. For ballot integrity, he's saying he wants to address the use of ballot drop boxes. He wants to address ballot harvesting so that no person may possess ballots other than their own and their immediate family. No mass mailing of vote-by-mail ballots. Only voters who request a ballot should receive a ballot. And vote-by-mail requests must be made each election year by the individual. Vote-by-mail ballot signatures must match the most recent signature on file. I don't see what's controversial about this at all. I don't see what the problem is, especially given the last election. I think we can make a case that this is absolutely necessary going forward in all states. So DeSantis is going to start writing up bills, and we're going to find out who votes for it and who's against it. Here's transparency. And by the way, this is a bipartisan issue. The Democrats have voiced some concerns in all this, especially before November 3rd of last year. It was Elizabeth Warren who said that they didn't trust these vote machines, or that they need to be audited, they need to be overlooked. So bipartisan support. Basically what's going to happen is, as soon as the next Democrat candidate loses, you're going to see YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all of these people shutting people down right now for voicing dissent about voting. Suddenly they're going to be like, this is the new topic as soon as a Republican wins and a Democrat loses. Guaranteed. Here's the transparency. Excuse me. Here's the transparency in the process. Political parties and candidates cannot be shut out from observing the signature matching process. Again, I don't know why this is controversial. Supervisors of elections must post overvote ballots to be considered by the canvassing board on their website before the canvassing board meets, and prohibits counties from receiving grants from private third-party organizations for get out the vote initiatives. And then here's transparency in election reporting. Requires real-time reporting of voter turnout data at the precinct level, and supervisors of elections must report how many ballots have been requested, how many have been received, and how many are left to be counted. You do that and we have a clean vote. So it could happen. And at the very least, if we can get these operating in those swing states is where the pressure is going to be. There's still a lot of Republican pull, a lot of conservative pull in those states. So you get 4 or 5 states and suddenly you have a fair election. And then you have either a Trump run or a Trump supported candidate and you have a win. This is all good news. Go Ron DeSantis. I'm Doug TenNapel in exile.